On the morning of Friday, September 19th, 2025, life on the Estonian island of Vindloo unfolded with its usual quiet rhythm. The waters of the Gulf of Finland lapped gently against the shore, and the crisp autumn air carried the scent of pine. Below on the ground, the day was just beginning. People went about their routines, unaware of the high-stakes drama gathering pace miles above their heads. This tranquility, however, was a fragile veneer. In the skies over the Baltic, tensions had been simmering for months, and the invisible line separating sovereign airspace from international waters was about to be tested in a manner that would challenge the very definition of modern warfare. High above the clouds, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets sliced through the atmosphere. They were flying dark. Their transponders, devices that broadcast an aircraft's identity and altitude, were switched off. They maintained complete radio silence, offering no flight plan to air traffic controllers. This was not a commercial flight lost in the clouds. It was a deliberate and calculated act. The 3 jets, moving at nearly the speed of sound, were on a direct course for Estonian airspace. Their objective appeared clear: to send a message, to probe a weakness, and to conduct a brazen incursion into the territory of a NATO member state. The jets crossed the line. They penetrated over 11 kilometers into sovereign Estonian airspace, a clear violation of international law and a direct challenge to the Western military alliance. The pilots likely felt a sense of confidence, flying advanced interceptors designed for speed and altitude. Perhaps they believed their stealthy approach would grant them precious minutes before being detected, allowing them to complete their provocative maneuver and retreat before any significant response could be mounted. But they were operating under an outdated assumption about how air defense works in the 21st century. They were flying into a trap not made of metal or missiles, but of data and light. This was not an isolated incident. The incursion was the 4th of its kind in 2025, but it was by far the most significant due to the number of aircraft involved and the duration they lingered in protected airspace. It came just days after Russia and Belarus concluded massive military exercises that included simulated nuclear launches, and only weeks after NATO forces had downed Russian drones over Poland. The political atmosphere was electric with tension. Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna would later describe the act as an unprecedentedly brazen and very clear provocation, a sentiment echoed by officials across the European Union. The stage was set for a confrontation, but it would not be the one the Russian pilots expected. The Russian pilots' belief in their invisibility was shattered in just 16 seconds. The moment the MiGs crossed into restricted airspace, they were detected, not by a lone radar station, but by NATO's vast and integrated sensor network. This sprawling digital nervous system, stretching across the continent, combines data from ground-based radars, airborne platforms, and satellite surveillance. It is designed for exactly this scenario, to see what others try to hide. The silent, non-compliant jets appeared as clear, unmistakable blips on screens across multiple NATO command centers. The element of surprise, which the Russian pilots had counted on, had evaporated almost instantly. Within 4 minutes, the situation had escalated from detection to active tracking. NATO assets were now fully engaged, but not in the way one might imagine from old war movies. There were no frantic scrambles or alarms blaring across an airbase. Instead, the response was calm, digital, and chillingly effective. Italian F-35s, operating as part of the routine Baltic air policing mission, were already airborne and in position. These advanced 5th-generation fighters did not ignite their afterburners to race toward the intruders. Instead, they maintained their distance, staying over 90 kilometers away, well beyond the range of the MiG's own sensors. The F-35s began their work in complete electronic silence. Using sophisticated passive sensors, including advanced infrared systems, they locked onto the heat signatures of the Russian jets. The MiG-31s, powerful as they were, bled thermal energy, creating a distinct trail that the F-35s could follow as easily as reading words on a page. The Italian pilots became invisible ghosts, watching every move the intruders made without giving away their own position. The Russian pilots flew on, completely unaware that they were being meticulously observed, their speed, altitude, and heading logged and shared across the entire NATO network. This initial response highlighted a fundamental shift in air combat. Dominance was no longer just about being the fastest or highest flying jet. It was about information. NATO knew exactly where the MiGs were, where they were going, and what they were doing. The Russian pilots, in contrast, knew nothing. They were flying blind into a carefully orchestrated digital ambush. The alliance was leveraging its greatest strength, not just the power of its individual aircraft, but the networked intelligence that bound them all together into a single, cohesive fighting force. The trap was slowly beginning to close. As the minutes ticked by, the Russian pilots began to realize something was wrong. Their initial confidence likely gave way to a growing sense of unease. Perhaps they detected a faint electronic whisper, or their threat receivers flickered with an anomaly. Acting on instinct, they initiated a series of defensive maneuvers, banking and accelerating in an attempt to shake off any potential pursuers. This decision, born from a mix of suspicion and protocol, would prove to be a critical mistake. The sudden bursts of speed caused their fuel consumption to surge, a fact that was being carefully monitored and logged by the unseen NATO observers. At precisely 9:12 UTC, NATO's response shifted from passive observation to active engagement. Yet, no missiles left their rails. Instead, the Italian F-35s initiated a sophisticated electronic warfare attack. They unleashed a focused barrage of electromagnetic energy, a digital storm aimed directly at the Russian formation. The effect on the MiG-31s was immediate and catastrophic. Their radar displays, which should have shown clear skies ahead, were suddenly flooded with dozens of false targets. Ghostly aircraft appeared and vanished, creating a chaotic and utterly confusing picture of the airspace around them. The electronic assault did not stop there. The F-35s directed a powerful electromagnetic pulse designed to overwhelm the Russian jets' sensitive electronic systems. Cockpit instruments flickered, warning lights flashed, indicating system faults that were not actually there. The pilots' primary tools for navigation and situational awareness became their worst enemies, feeding them a stream of disorienting and contradictory information. The tight, disciplined formation of three jets broke apart as each pilot struggled to make sense of the digital chaos enveloping them. Communication between the Russian aircraft likely became difficult, if not impossible. This was modern warfare in its purest, most disorienting form. NATO was fighting with algorithms and energy waves, not with explosives. The goal was not to destroy the aircraft, but to neutralize the pilot's ability to operate them effectively. By turning the MiGs' own technology against them, the alliance had effectively blinded and deafened the intruders. They were still flying powerful machines, but they had lost control of the situation. They were lost in a digital fog, their fuel gauges dropping and their anxiety rising, all while the F-35s remained completely unseen. The electronic attack was only the beginning of the Russian pilots' nightmare. As their formation splintered, the broader NATO response materialized from all directions. This was no longer just an Italian operation, it was a multinational network display of overwhelming force. From Sweden, nimble Gripen fighters converged on the area. From Finland, more fighters joined the effort. Polish F-16s and German Typhoons, already on high alert, were vectored in to seal off any potential escape routes. The sky, which had seemed empty moments before, was now filling with adversaries the MiGs could not see, but whose presence was becoming terrifyingly apparent. Each of these allied aircraft was a node in a single, shared network. Every piece of data, the MiGs' precise altitude, their declining fuel levels, their thermal output, their erratic flight paths, was shared across the entire coalition in real time. A German pilot saw the same information as a Polish pilot, who saw the same data as the Italian F-35 commander orchestrating the electronic assault. They worked together to construct a moving corridor of control, an invisible electronic cage that tightened around the Russian jets with each passing second. The intruders were no longer just being watched, they were being herded. By 9:20 UTC, the pressure intensified dramatically. One of the Italian F-35s, still lurking undetected, achieved a 96% probability firing solution on the lead MiG. This triggered a new kind of psychological assault. Inside the Russian cockpit, a continuous and unnerving targeting tone began to shriek, the universal sound that tells a pilot they are seconds away from being destroyed. Yet, no missile was fired. The lock was held, a constant, high-pitched reminder of the pilot's extreme vulnerability. It was a clear and unmistakable message. We can destroy you at any moment we choose. The Russian pilots were now in an impossible situation. Their instruments were unreliable, their formation was broken, and their fuel levels were approaching a critical state, dropping below 4,000 kilograms. Every direction they turned, their systems warned them of an imminent threat. The electronic net had blocked all paths of retreat, funneling them into a single predetermined exit route. They were utterly outmaneuvered without a single shot being fired. The brazen incursion had turned into a desperate flight for survival, dictated entirely by the silent, invisible forces that now controlled the sky. At 9:26 UTC, with their options exhausted and their aircraft running low on fuel, the Russian formation finally broke off and retreated. Their brief, 12-minute incursion into NATO airspace had ended in a complete and humiliating failure. NATO jets from multiple nations then transitioned to an escort role, shadowing the MiGs until they were confirmed to be clear of the restricted area at 10:01 UTC. The silent skies over Estonia returned to normal. On the ground, life continued, with most people completely unaware of the invisible battle that had just been won decisively in the stratosphere above. The aftermath was swift. Estonia summoned the Russian ambassador to lodge a formal protest, initiating NATO Article 4 consultations to discuss the grave threat to its security. The Russian Defense Ministry issued a predictable denial, claiming its jets were on a routine flight over neutral waters. But the evidence was undeniable, and the message sent by NATO's response was far more powerful than any diplomatic statement. It demonstrated that the alliance could enforce its borders and neutralize a significant threat without firing a single missile or endangering a single pilot in a dogfight. It was a victory achieved through superior technology and seamless teamwork. This incident reveals the new doctrine of air dominance. The future of aerial defense is not solely reliant on the speed of an aircraft or the range of its missiles. It is about the power of networked information, the sophistication of electronic warfare, and the ability of a multinational coalition to act as one. By sharing data from a web of sensors and using non-kinetic tools to confuse and disable an adversary, NATO showed it could win a confrontation before it even began. The Russian MiGs were defeated not by physical force, but by a superior understanding and control of the battle space. This silent, invisible response matters immensely for the future of global security. It proves that aggression can be met with overwhelming force that is not necessarily lethal. It serves as a powerful deterrent, showing potential adversaries that probing NATO's borders is a fool's errand. In an age of escalating tensions, the ability to de-escalate a crisis while still achieving a decisive outcome is more valuable than ever. The silent skies over the Baltic on that September morning did not just mark a failed Russian provocation. They heralded a new era of defense, where victory is measured not in destruction, but in control.